Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
And remember this, all lives matter. They are gifts from God. Don't be racist. Say proudly, all lives matter, and thank God. Boy, I'm in a good mood this morning. Look out. We got a lot of things to cover. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot. Come on, Patriots. Time to rise and shine. Call me. Good morning. And a good morning to you and yours. I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch, and of course brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations with a very safe, clean environment and the best in tires. Don't forget that. And of course, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Let's go to the phone line right now and have a real patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning, Zeb. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent job. Thank you so much, Patriot. I appreciate it. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
God bless you.
That was very good. Very good. Appreciate that. I'm going to wave that red, white, and blue today, and we've got to turn things around. This bus is going over a cliff. Time for weather, and the weather brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 West of Hayburn on the Burley-Paul Highway. And the number to call, Roger and the crew, they get there early in the morning at 7 a.m. to serve you with the best of tools and equipment for every task that you have at hand. The number, 678-3122. Remember, K&R Rental. All the gardening equipment and all the rototillers, everything. They've got all your water lines. They've got all the rental tools and equipment for both long and short term at K&R Rental. And right now, here's old Scott Man with the weather.
Good Tuesday morning. It is time now for your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. For today, going to be sunny, looking for a high of 82. Expect some light and variable winds. Clear for tonight with a low of 47. Now for Wednesday, sunshine and a high of 86. Wednesday night, going to be clear, 51 the low. Warming up on Thursday again, sunshine and a high of 92 for Thursday night, mostly clear. Lows of 59 and 90 for Friday, and beautiful sunshiny skies. That's your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. Have a great day.
Oh, thank you very much, Scott. Man, appreciate it. And the weather brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 West of Hayburn. Like I said, on the Burley-Paul Highway, you can't miss them. I mean, they've got equipment all over their front yard for you to finish any kind of a construction project or job. You give them a call, 678-3122, K&R Rental. Want to also give a great big shout out to our friends over at Daryl's Cleaners. I went all the way down to Burley yesterday and forgot the clothes. Left them laying in a bag in the bedroom. By golly, that means I got to make another trip soon to Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. They absolutely are the best at treating your clothes with TLC, tender love and care. I mean, clothes are expensive, and you want to get the long life out of your clothes with dry cleaning and taking care of your clothes. Take them to Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Simply, they are the best at what they do. Somebody else that's the best at what they do, and I'm talking about Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And it's not brag, it's a fact when I say they have all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs and the knowledge and the people that really can help you with any task. And all you need to do, if you have questions, give them a call at 678-0459. They open the doors at the office at 7:30 in the morning till 5, Monday through Friday. Ramsey Heating and Electric is going to get warm the next couple of days. Better check on your air conditioner filters. They've got them. Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Caller, good morning and thank you.
Good morning, Ted. This is your blood pressure specialist.
Oh, go ahead, Keith. What do you got, man?
Okay, I don't know of anybody that's attended more fairs and rodeos than Zeb Bell. But I want you to analyze what I'm saying. You know, Minidoka Fair starts about the 3rd of August, and then you have the Cassia County Fair within 2 weeks. What a stupid idea. You know, why don't they combine the fair? But there is nothing fair about the word fair here, because it's not fair to the kids. It's the livestock and everything. Why don't they have one big event and draw a lot of people and have a good time and try to reunite these two counties?
Well, okay, first of all, and you're a very dear friend of this program, very dear friend, and I'm going to say some things that I don't agree with you on. Every county has a right to be an individualist or show their individualist attitudes by supporting and having their own county events, i.e. a county fair, whether it's Minidoka County Fair and Rodeo or whether it's Cassia County Fair and Rodeo. And to say that why don't they combine and do this and try to work together for a bigger and better event, in that regards, are you going to tell Jerome to go with Gooding County, or are you going to tell Jerome to go across the river into Twin Falls County? I mean, what right do you have or anybody to tell a county that they can't have their own individual county events?
Well, you're certainly true. But let's take into consideration the Mini-Cassia Chamber of Commerce. It's located in Minidoka County. It's worked out really wonderful, I think. Being a member of that for years, I think it's just a wonderful thing that we can come united instead of Minidoka has to have the first shot at it.
Well,
that makes everybody angry, and you know, it just would be a more equitable situation.
Well, and maybe in your opinion, Keith, but there again, I am not going to sit here and be Solomon and say, okay, we're going to have now these two counties have a community gathering and they're going to have their fairs together. No, I'm not going to say that because I don't think it's right. I think that each county has a right to their own specific celebration on how they do their county fair, etc., and I don't think it's right to demand or condemn either county for not getting together. That's my own opinion, and I'm going to stick with it.
You know, I knew the outcome of this before we started.
Okay.
But I wanted to help you with your blood pressure.
All right, my friend. Well, you got it up a little bit, but I just respect each and every county for having put forth a diligent effort, whether it's Lincoln County, whether it's Jerome County, whether it's Camas County. I don't care. They have a right to their own individualism and the way that they're going to celebrate their respective fair and or other events. Got to run, Keith. God bless you for your call. Appreciate it.
Everybody wants to be your friend.
All right. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Caller, I'll be right there with you. Don't forget Dino's Septic Service. Septic tank pumping, septic tank and drain fields installed, backhoe services, water and sewer lines installed, sewer and sink drain lines cleaned. Oh, these people do the job for you that you don't want to do. No, I mean, they're really, really good, fast, fair, friendly service. All you got to do is call them at 436-6526 or in Burley, 678-1638. And we've had them work for us. They do a phenomenal job. They've got the best of equipment, the best of people serving you at Dino's Septic Service. You get a hold of them today. Caller, I don't want to have you wait, but I'm just going to ask you your indulgence for just a moment because I've got to remind everybody as to what's happening up at Oakley for the Pioneer Days. My goodness sakes. A lot of activity this week up at Oakley Pioneer Days for 2020 going all the way through the weekend. Don't forget, Thursday night they're going to have the world's biggest gymkhana. Man, they've got a lot of people, a lot of entries, and it's going to be a dandy deal starting at 6 p.m. Then, of course, on Friday and Saturday night, the open rodeo at 7 p.m., and then fireworks. Oh, my goodness. Saturday, of course, vendors in the park, chuck wagon breakfast, and the world-famous Pioneer Day Parade at 5 p.m. in the afternoon to celebrate Oakley Pioneer Days 2020. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Jeb. The Senior Center in Burley today is going to have meatloaf, mashed taters, and gravy. Everybody is welcome. You can call and get a takeout order or just come and enjoy the camaraderie at the Senior Center.
Absolutely. Joe, how have you been? You feeling okay?
Oh, I'm heading towards 100.
Oh, in more ways than one. God bless you, my friend. Thank you. Thank you so much.
For all you do for us.
All right, buddy. That's over at the Senior Center on Overland in Burley. Really, really nice folks. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Zeb. You know, Keith's got a good idea there, but I kind of disagree with him in the fact that there's several little programs that are put on in the county, in both counties. You've got Declo Days, you've got Oakley Days, you've got the Rupert deal on the square, and also at the fairgrounds. And that's twice a year they do that there. And you got the one at Burley. The one at Burley, it's just crowded. There's not really enough space for what they're doing. They need more. And I don't know, they're all wonderful programs. I go to every single one of them. And I appreciate them all.
Yeah.
And, you know, it gives you something to do, and it makes a lot of community involvement.
Yep.
And a lot of patriotic weekends in this community. And I don't think you'll ever get enough patriotic weekends to go around. If we had another 100 of them, to me it wouldn't be enough because they are just absolutely fabulous.
I appreciate your call and your thoughts on this, and I believe in county individualism and appreciate your remarks.
Okay, you have a wonderful day. You know, I hate to disagree with Keith. Once in a while I do it, but I have to do it.
All right, my friend. Thank you. Take care. God bless you. Thank you. I want to talk to all of you this morning about a subject that really, the words make no sense to me. And perhaps somebody out in the audience has already been thinking about these words and what they mean and how they could become applicable to our everyday lifestyle if the sleazy slime left takes over our government. These words were used, and I saw a news clip last night that really scared me. It was a news clip by at least 8 or 9 of the most prominent, underline that word, Democrats. And they kept saying that we, meaning them, are going to reimagine public safety. Reimagine public safety. What does that mean? Now, we are seeing a defunding and an absolute devastation of our police forces around the United States. Let me throw some numbers out to you this morning that just blew me right out of the saddle when I heard about these. Shootings, since all this mess started with the Black Lives Matter and all the devastation in the riots, shootings are up 600%. I'm not making these numbers up, folks. Look them up yourself. 600%. And arrests are down 62% because of the cutting back on police. So when Democrats come out and say, like crows sitting on a fence line, reimagine public safety, what does that mean? Does that mean that some get protection, some don't because of the circumstances and or the crime? Does that mean that we have to provide for ourselves, that we have to be our own discriminatory law force on our property? And then, after something might occur, have the law, as it is with the Democrats, come down on us for providing our own security? Does that mean that social workers are going to be talking to crime and criminals and not doing anything about it? 2 police officers were murdered yesterday. Murdered. Because they answered a call to a home that was having a domestic spat or dispute. They stood on the porch and they knocked on the door opened, and they were shot to death. They had no opportunity to defend themselves. They didn't have an opportunity to draw their weapons and return fire. They were shot and killed on the porch. A social worker is going to do a better job? Oh, come on. Get your head out of the Democratic bucket. We're in a mess. But what do those words mean? Come on, all you folks out there in the audience. Reimagine public safety. What does that mean when we're now in such a chaotic, mob-driven state? And if you think I'm making this up, please start scrolling with your computer or going through the newspapers of various towns. I don't care if it's the Salt Lake Tribune all the way to the New York Times or L.A., whatever. We got problems in River City, and it's crime infestation. And then these Democrats say, reimagine public safety. While I do a commercial break, at least please somebody give me a call and let me know what your thoughts on those words are, to reimagine public safety. I want to talk to you a little bit about Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, and believe me, what a nice staff with Thomas and Michelle and the entire staff serving you delicious food. All the phenomenal menu choices for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, the dessert menus. Oh my, it is good eating. I'm a breakfast fan, I admit it, and boy, do I love their different breakfasts they have on the menu. Phenomenal. Don't forget Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, America's Diner, and the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. We're going to be over there on the 23rd. Put that on your calendar for Zeb's Lunch Bunch at Denny's Restaurant. Don't you miss it. Calls are welcome. I just can't imagine what those words mean. Reimagine public safety. Give me a call on that, and please let me know. Another item to go along with that reimagining public safety is I'm making a call this morning for any and all Christians. I don't care what the denomination. I don't care if it's the Methodists. I don't care if it's the Lutherans. I don't care if it's the Catholics, the Mormons. Everybody, stand up and stop turning the other cheek. Stop turning the other cheek. Christian monuments and statues are being brought down in an anti-Christian move. There's a denigration of Christians and their beliefs. And you even have a former person that went running for the presidency a few years back, Howard the Duck Dean, a coward, that's trying to absolutely say all the negative things. And he said all Christians are haters. I'm not making this up. He said that. Because we believe in what the Bible says. And sooner or later, Christians, myself included, vermin like Howard Dean are going to go after the Bible and have the Bible removed because of what they term hate speech. Mark my words. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, if they get their way, public safety will become an oxymoron.
Okay, but don't leave me hanging there. What do you think the words reimagine public safety will do?
It'll be like Minneapolis right after George Floyd died. That will be our new public safety.
You know, my dear lady, you brought up the city of Minneapolis, and I know that you are a real patriotic American. You want to hear something this morning that's going to make you stand up and slam your fist on the table? Listen to this. The city of Minneapolis, after they did nothing to stop the rioters and the punks for 4 days, go in and destroy 1,500 buildings were burned at a cost of over $500 million plus, and now the goofballs in Minneapolis are applying to the federal government to get aid money, our money, to rebuild their city.
No. If you didn't stop it the second it started, then it's on your head.
Why do we, the taxpayers, have to be the dartboard for everybody? I personally am going to be calling everybody today that I know back there in Washington, D.C. I'm not ashamed to tell them what my thoughts are in some really flavored language. I am sick and tired of the American patriots and taxpayers being on the hook for the stupidity of mayors and governors not squashing these absolute mobsters.
Exactly. Well, their attitude is, well, Washington will pay for it. Washington gets their money from us.
Yeah, we are the taxpayers that are going to fund for these nincompoops that call themselves politicians and city leaders and state leaders to go in and refurbish over $500 million worth of buildings that were burned and looted. Give me a break. How dumb are we in this country?
Well, unfortunately, we're getting pretty dumb.
I agree. Thank you. You are always welcome on the program. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just don't know, folks. Honestly, you got to look at your whole car. And don't anybody call me and say, oh, well, that's back in Minneapolis, and we're way out here. No, come on. We're all taxpayers, at least those of us that work. And that's our money. That's our money. Caller, stand by. I'll be right there. I'm really teed off this morning. I hope you'll help me in just a minute. I want to talk about our friends over at Ritter's Showcase, and they're located at 2611 Overland in Burley. They're having a great big, really big indoor tent sale. You can save a whole bunch of money on great products like Whirlpool, Speed Queen, Serta, everything. They've got great deals in appliances like a 21 cubic foot refrigerator at just $6.99. Great selection of air conditioners. Better check that out. It's going to get warm over the next couple of days. 12 months, same as cash available, as well as no credit options available. I'm telling you what, all of this at Ritter's Showcase Indoor Tent Sale, 2611 Overland in Burley. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. You talk about reimagining. Let's reimagine right after World War II, when rationing was over with and everything, and you could buy a new car, and everybody was on the same page, so to speak. You know, it was a wonderful time. I was very young then, but I didn't know how well we really had it.
Yeah, but Keith, that's fine. That's hindsight. That's looking in the rearview mirror. We got to look forward. I'm not looking in any rearview mirror. The past is the past, and it's dead and gone. Close the book. What does this mean now to reimagine public safety? What are they going to do or not do for the American public that are taxpayers?
Well, we've got to have a real good police department. Now, that's why these smaller cities, even like as big as Twin Falls is to us, we don't have these problems because we have the force to take care of it, and we keep it, our city government keeps it under control.
No, wait a minute. You're wrong on a statement you made, my dear friend. Yes, the smaller cities, you use Twin Falls as an example. Sure, I'm sure they have the manpower to put down any and all quelling of insurrections. Well, so did Minneapolis. Why didn't they utilize what they had?
Well, Minneapolis had a tremendous influx of aliens. I call them aliens.
Okay, what about New York? What about Atlanta? What about Milwaukee? What about Seattle? What about other cities around the United States? They all had the adequate forces to put down and squelch any of these absolute idiot mobsters. Didn't do it because the mayors were saying they were expressing their free speech and burning, looting, and absolutely crippling society. That's not free speech. That's mobs.
Well, let's look at it this way. Every one of these cities that you mentioned are under Democratic...
That's right. You got it. You win the prize.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
And how's the blood pressure?
Well, forget that. I'm on a roll that I'm not going to quit this morning. No, seriously. We are under siege by a very left sinister movement. It's not even laughable. It's not even funny to an nth degree. We are talking about reimagining public safety. I want somebody to explain that to me, because not one of those stupid Democrats on television gave any kind of an analysis of what they were talking about. They don't know. They're not bright enough. Thanks, Keith. God bless you, man.
The only way this is going to come about, Zeb, is to get rid of all of these stinking Democrats.
Well, that's another story another time, but appreciate your call. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You bet, bye.
All right, caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. We are dealing with deadly enemies of the United States. They are out there to kill any citizen that they deem doesn't belong on this earth. It's time for the president to send troops in to crush these people. No more fooling with these guys.
No, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm certainly not going to argue with you, and I'm not going to be picky about the choice of words that you use, because I absolutely agree with you. I'm not going to back up. You know, some of these left-wing loons that write for op-ed editorial pages in various newspapers, including our own, they haven't got the common sense that God gave a goat or no come here from Sikkim, and I'm sick and tired of listening to them when we need to take action. It's time to take action and stop these mobsters from ruining America.
Well, it's going to cost you and I billions of tax dollars to repair the damage these guys have done.
Well, yeah.
And an invading enemy.
I mean, we've already talked about how the city of Minneapolis...
For the president to send the troops in, and if you got to put the bayonets on the rifle to put these guys down, that's what needs to be done. Otherwise, America is finished.
You know, there was a lady that called a couple of weeks ago, and she said, I don't want to see any more violence. I don't want to see force used. I don't want to see any of our troops go into our towns. And my response was, oh, okay, you want to go ahead and see the looting and the burning and the beating of store owners and the takeover of cities and then have conglomerates like what happened in Seattle with shootings and rapes and everything? Well, no, I don't want that either. Well, I said you can't have both.
Well, the enemies of America are planning on people like this lady who we're just talking about. These are the ones that are going to make it easy for the enemies to walk into our country and take us over.
I'll tell you something, Tony. I've taken the gloves off on this program, and I don't care who's offended. I never did anyway. And if they want to get offended, that's fine. But I'll tell you what, we are under siege in America by left loons and all kinds of negativity and destruction of our values and our Constitution. And I, like you, am absolutely adamant that it's time to start bloodying some noses.
Well, many of these people that are in those crowds there, Antifa, they have the brain about the size of a golf ball. What would they do with this country if they ever took it over?
I'm afraid to think. Thank you, Tony. I am. I'm afraid to think. God bless you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Calls are welcome, 436-2244. Caller, I'll be right there. Still, I'd like to have some kind of a discernment or explanation as to what the Democrats are trying to say. Of course, they probably don't understand either. That's obvious. What they say when they repeat the image and the story of Reimagine public safety. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't forget Barry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts at 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Oh, yeah, good people. 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin with Eli and the crew. And Napa's location. They have got a brand new, great, big, huge inventory of all the equipment you need. All the Bobcats, all the trenchers, all the scissor lifts, all the Doosan wheel loaders and excavators for all the lifting, digging, pushing, and carrying. Oh, boy, get a hold of them today. Really good people to work with. Barry Equipment and Rental. Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. You stop in and see them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Bell. You know, I'm 100% behind everything that Tony just said. I've been saying it for a long time. President Trump needs to sign the executive order, get the military in there, wipe some of these little puke faces out, and the rest of them are going to run like little scared rabbits with their tails tucked between their legs.
I agree with that. You are looking at a situation right now where the cancer has taken over the patient. And it's not going to be long for the patient to live. The patient is America. The patient is our Constitution. The patient is our laws and our society of right and wrong. The patient is dying because we're letting these creeps and these slimes take over America. Again, whether it's Dallas, Texas, whether it's Milwaukee, Wisconsin, whether it's Seattle, Washington, or New York, or Minneapolis, doesn't make any difference. It's got to be stopped.
Well, it does, and I don't know why the people of those states, of course, most of those are gun-free areas, aren't they? I believe.
Yeah.
They have the no-gun policy. Why don't we propose to the far left that are wanting us to dismantle the police departments and all these people that protect us every single day? Why don't we propose they do without their armed bodyguards and their 6-foot-tall gated community homes and see how fast they refund the police department?
Yeah, that's exactly. You and Deanne must have been talking because that's exactly the words that she and I were talking about last evening. But I've had it. I mean, I still want somebody to call me this morning and give me supposedly what these words mean. Reimagine public safety. What do you think they're talking about there?
I can't imagine either. I don't know any social worker with a brain cell left in their pea brains is going to walk into a domestic abuse a dispute and try to talk them out of it. Oh, please, give me a break.
You know,
They're not going to do the job that our policemen do. They're not going to put a badge on or put a uniform on and run into danger when everybody else is running out.
Bingo. I mean, we have professionals. In every organization, I don't care if it's a police force. I don't care if it's a teachers union. I don't care if it's a group of loggers in Washington State. You're going to have bad apples in every congregate working force. However, that doesn't mean they're all bad. And this is why our police absolutely need to be supported. Instead of defunding, they need to have a heck of a lot more money so they can do the job and eradicate the slime that's trying to take over this country.
Oh, I totally agree. You know, one bad apple don't spoil the whole group. I'm going to use my little city police department here. We have some wonderful officers and a chief of police and a county sheriff that go out of their way to help the people of their community. They don't. I've known a lot of them. They're kind of like my extended family, some of them.
I know that.
And I don't know any one of them that wouldn't run in if something, somebody needed them to help with a, abusive husband or, a burglar breaking into their house. They'd be the first ones there to help them.
I will say this, and I mean this. I mean this, Donna, and I have a feeling that you'd be there with me with a paintbrush. If this idiotic group that is absolutely evil, Black Lives Matter, starts painting Black Lives Matter on our streets here in the state of Idaho, I'm getting the paint to cover it up.
I'll get the blue paint. I'll buy it.
All right. God bless you. Thank you.
Hey, have a great
Thank
day,
you.
my friend. Bye-bye.
I'm just fed up with this. I mean, this country is too great to be littered by the trash that's trying to take over and subvert our country and our Constitution. It is. And here's somebody else that I admire because he had the guts to say what's on his mind. Former National Football League safety Jack Brewer, and now a pastor, was being interviewed about all the turmoil, all the distress, and all the problems that are going on with the Black Lives Matter and the burning and the looting and the demands and the absolute trouncing of private property. And he said, get back to God. Get back to God. And the paddle should be restored at the schools. And I thought about that when he said it. And I wonder what kind of repercussions he's going to suffer over saying that, even though I hold him on a high pedestal for saying what he did. We got to get back to God and the paddle at schools. I absolutely agree. And I, like I said, don't really care who doesn't like what I say. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Little Johnny and little Susie are becoming very obstinate and very dangerous, and they need to learn respect. Let's not forget our friends with Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And, of course, they do a wonderful job for your hearing health. I am a great advocate of their business because they help me, Dr. Christine Pickup, and they know all about hearing problems and how to help curb those problems. They're right behind the Minidoka Hospital across from the emergency room, and I urge you to call their number and make a hearing screening appointment. The number is 312-0957. 312-0957, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And they bring you right now the weather. Here's Scotty.
Good Tuesday Tuesday morning. It is time now for your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. For today, going to be sunny, looking for a high of 82. Expect some light and variable winds. Clear for tonight with a low of 47. Now for Wednesday, sunshine and a high of 86. Wednesday night, going to be clear, 51 the low. Warming up on Thursday again, sunshine and a high of 92 for Thursday night, mostly clear. Lows of 59 and 90 for Friday, and beautiful sunshiny skies. That's your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. Have a great day.
Thank you, Scotty. And don't forget our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. They provide expert diagnostic testing combined with the best technology to provide the most comprehensive treatment available for your hearing health. That's true. Give them a call, 312-0957, Mount Harrison Audiology. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Well, they're reimagining public safety is just like Obama and Biden's campaign slogan, fundamentally transforming America.
Well, yeah, but wait a minute. Maybe I'm a little naive about this and not seeing between the lines or between the letters. I can understand what they say about transforming America because they've made the threats, with taxes and an energy program that's going to go all electric and all of us are going to live in a cave, all of this. But when you say reimagine public safety, where does that really put us?
It puts us in a third world country. It puts us in a country without law and order. It puts us in a country with there's no equal justice. There's a two-tiered justice system.
I'm going to throw a question at you, and this is to all my listeners, but I'm going to aim it at you. If Black Lives Matter so much, why are they killing themselves at record rates and there's chaos in all the black communities with black-on-black crime?
Well, black lives only matter when they can get political gain and get on the news, the mainstream media, to put down the opposite party.
I don't know if you saw that picture of that little boy in the news here the last couple of days that was at a barbecue sitting in a plastic chair. And members of a black gang just started shooting at random at the people at this barbecue, and the little boy in the chair, just about ready to celebrate a birthday, was shot in the stomach and killed. And my wife and I both looked at each other, and it was so sad that we both started to almost cry because why? What's the sense? If these groups call Black Lives Matter and they're ranting and raving and after the police and condemning whites and saying that we're all racist, and then they end up killing themselves, that's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard in my life.
It is. They're the biggest hypocrites on this planet, Black Lives Matter is right now. Because black lives don't matter to them. They really don't. The only time that black lives matter when they can get upset and then go riot and burn and destroy a town. They don't. Wendy, have you seen Black Lives Matter trying to get community centers? When have you seen Black Lives Matter standing up for school choice?
Oh, no, they'd rather walk across a bridge and chant, "Pigs in a blanket, fry 'em like bacon," against our police forces.
I know it, and the police were protecting them on that march.
While they chanted that phrase. I sat there, and the father of this little boy couldn't hold it together, and I don't blame him. And the grandmother was there. And the grandmother, and by the way, I'm talking about a black family, the grandmother looked at the camera and she said, "Damn you. Damn you." And you're right. What's going on in our communities like Chicago are shooting galleries. It's black-on-black crime. I mean, gangs and their turf and their silly, stupid ideas of life and death. This is the ruination of our country and our cities.
It is. It is. When you trap these kids in these failing school districts, like I think it was Baltimore, with their, I don't know how many school districts there was, but there is zero students proficient in math?
Yeah.
0. And how much money are we throwing at them? And you take the police, the bad police. Why can't we get rid of them? Because of the unions. Why can't we get rid of bad teachers? Because of the unions. Who supports the unions? The Democrats.
Yeah, exactly.
Unions support the Democrats.
And, I want to go back just a little bit to what you said, and then I get another call, Doug. But, the police and what's going on in this country and our schools. You mentioned our schools. We have got to reopen these schools. I am sick and tired of the Democrats using education as a ploy against Donald Trump and the so-called coronavirus being the biggest negative factor. These kids have got to get back in school. We've got to get back to an education, or else we are doomed.
Definitely. And when you get the government controlling the education of the youth, the government will teach the youth what they want them to know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Doug, my dear friend, thank you.
I've read the other day, and I got to repeat it right now. What if I told you the reason they do not teach you your rights in school is because it's easier to take them away if you don't even know what they are?
Amen. Amen. Doug, thank you. God bless you. I got another call. Thanks.
Hey, everybody, let's do what we can for our senior centers.
All right, buddy. Thanks. Caller number 2, sorry to keep you waiting. Go ahead, please. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Well, the proper function of government, their main function is protection of life and property. And, of course, they're protecting the Marxist radicals, Antifa and Black Lives Matter. But those poor St. Louis people, I'm sure you've been discussing, they took away their guns.
Yeah, wait a minute. Adrian, stay with my point. No, Adrian, wait a minute, please. I'm almost out of time this hour, and I want you to answer a couple of quick things. I know about the people, the McCloskeys. I have hit it many, many times, but I want you to tell me what you think the Democrats' words are when they say reimagine public safety. Quickly, tell me what you think that means.
Well, reimagine public safety is to do away with our police, our sheriffs, and bring in a national police force. That's what reimagining is all about. That's the bottom line. They want a national police force. That's what they wanted back in the 1960s when the John Birch Society came out, support your local police. We've reissued that call again. Keep our police local. Our sheriff is the most important elected official that we have, and support our police, and most of them are good, and if there's some bad cops, get rid of them. But that's the bottom line, Zeb, is we've got to support our local police and keep them independent, because as soon as they take federal money, just like our education, we've got Common Core, because it comes from the UN. They want to destroy this country, and they're doing a good job of it.
I agree. Adrian, thank you. That was very poignant, and I appreciate your remarks. Thank you. I got to run. I got to do a commercial, and then I got another call. Thank you. I tell you something, folks. For us to sit here in a very conservative area, a very pro-agricultural area, an area where we all get together and we might have our little disputes and arguments, but we're all going to bind together and help each other. And to think about how this country is falling apart right now, absolutely falling apart, we've got to say, wait a minute. Like Jack Brewer, the former NFL player and now pastor, said, we got to get back to God and we got to get the paddle out at school. I agree with that. Don't forget our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, and they are the best at what they do. They are all students of tireology. In other words, they know all about the tires, all the tread designs, what the tires are going to be the best for your driving conditions. And I urge you, before you go on any kind of a trip, to stop in and make sure that you've got the best in tires. I don't know what that fuzz is on the line, but I hope it goes away. Don't forget, they've got 7 great locations serving providing you with not only the best in tires, but also the very best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all of this and more by people that really care about your driving safety. James and Buell, Dan on Pole Line in Twin Falls, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes in Twin Falls, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. They are the best at what they do. Stop in and see them today. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. I got time for one more call, and that'll wrap it up and put it back in the box for this hour. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Quickly.
Good morning, Zeb. I have one request, and that is I would like to see you get Debbie Critchfield on the radio at an extended time so she could explain to us how our Ocasio County and Minidoka counties are going to come together.
Well, come together. What do you mean by that quickly? Come together in education?
Well, she works for the state. She doesn't just work for Ocasio County. That's what I'm getting at. But they are local to us, and I'd like to see them all on the same page.
Okay, well, first of all, I agree with what your concept is, and yes, we are talking to all aspects of education. As soon as they know what's going on, we'll be able to have a more precise, concise picture, but right now they're as much in limbo as we are. I got to run to the news, Keith, but your thoughts are always appreciated. Thank you very, very much. I mean, education's in limbo right now, and I'm just going to say simply, open the schools. Open the schools. We'll be back in 7 minutes. Oh, I had about 6 minutes to calm down a little bit, and it didn't work. Anyway, good morning and welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations with a very safe, clean environment and the best in tires. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's hear about our friends at Western Way Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all at your disposal. Western Way Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Way Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal.
Western Way Services, and just again, every now and then I get a call, people saying, well, gee whiz, we just moved into the area, and we heard you talking about Western Way Services. How do we get a hold of them to get on their route service? It's easy. Got a pen? Got a pencil? Got a piece of paper? 734-6969. 734-6969. Western Way Services, they are the best. There you go. Always at your disposal. Call them 734-6969. Want to also give a great big shout out to what's happening up in Oakley for the entirety of this week, going through Saturday, and that's, of course, the Oakley Pioneer Days. What is it now, 133 years? Wow! And I mean to tell you, they have a lot of ripping good fun up at Oakley Pioneer Days. Thursday night's going to be the Gymkhana at 6 p.m., and that is absolutely one of the biggest Gymkhanas anywhere, anytime. And then on Friday and Saturday, the open rodeo, and then they're going to have fireworks. And Saturday, of course, what a big, big deal on Saturday. Vendors in the park, chuck wagon breakfast, Goose Creek runoff. And later in the day, this is a first, they're going to have the parade start at 5 p.m. on Pioneer Day. So there you go. Oakley Pioneer Days for 2020. Don't you miss it. Get up and see your friends in Oakley. And talking about our friends, I also want to reiterate, of course, our dear friends over at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. Good morning, Joel Heward, family and staff, always serving you and your family with the absolute highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. They want to be of service to you, and they have flexible hours to make sure that they are there to serve you. Number to call, 436-5636. I'll repeat that number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert. And don't forget, Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morris and Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. I'm going to go to the phone line right now because I've got a dear friend waiting, and he is with the American Energy Alliance, and just an all-around good guy. Dan Kish, how are you?
Good, Zeb. How are you, sir?
I got to tell you, I guess they're not very good. I just choked. I got to tell you that this morning, I think my temper is at an all-time high. And I'm going to explain quickly before we get into some of these other stories. But when I heard that the city, excuse me, Dan, I'm dying here. The city of Minneapolis is calling for federal aid money to rebuild after the 4-day riots that burned over 1,500 buildings and cost over $500 million. The city of Minneapolis is asking Dan Kish and Zeb Bell and others of taxpayers to furnish the money. I am outraged.
Well, Zeb, your temperature is high. We need to send you to that Paris Climate Treaty.
Oh, no, that'd make it worse.
For you, the U.S.
That'd make it worse.
I'm telling you, sometimes you just shake your head. Do you think they should get it? I don't.
Well, here's the thing. They being the mayor, they being the governor, and all the forces that they had there to quell and squash all these slimes that were out there burning, looting, beating, and destroying the city of over $500 million and 1,500 buildings, and then to turn around and say to you and I, the taxpayers, that they want federal aid money, I've got some words in cowboy language I'd love to use.
Yeah, I totally get it, Zeb. I mean, they literally turned their city over to these people and let them have their way, and then they want to send the bill to everybody else. And it seems to me if you do stupid things, you probably ought to live with the consequences. That's part of life. That's part of learning. Rewarding that sort of behavior doesn't make any sense. Unfortunately, it's all too common. I'm hoping they don't get it.
Well, here's the thing. Dan, you know as well as I do, you've been around the horn once or twice yourself, that if they get the federal aid money, then you've got the domino board set up for Seattle, Milwaukee, Atlanta, New York, all of them with their hands in their tin cups out saying, oh, well, you help them rebuild, what about us?
Right. Well, I mean, this whole destructive thing that's happening in these leftist, frankly, run cities, costs businesses, costs people, costs lives, and then they want somebody else to pay the ticket. It just makes no sense. That's not an America that I understand, and I think I don't think there are a lot of people who think that they ought to be rewarded for that kind of behavior.
One of the
nothing to do with the federal government. Nothing. As a matter of fact, it would have gone on in Minneapolis had President Trump not authorized the National Guard to go in there and put a stop to it.
Right, absolutely.
So what would have gone on would have been worse. They weren't doing anything to try to fix their problem that they'd allowed to be created.
And this all ties in to the idiocy and the incompetency of the left and members of Congress on the left. And I'm going to have to highlight and feature at this time Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a woman that absolutely is so stupid and naive and doesn't know Khmer from Sikkim, and she's sitting in the halls of Congress, and I can't wait for you to tell my audience about a story about her and dirt. Go ahead.
Huh. Well, Zeb, this is, people can Google it, and just AOC and gardening, I guess, would be the best thing. But she was at her fancy place in Washington, D.C. on the rooftop, and there was a garden. And her comment was, I'm searching for it here. I had it and I lost it. Her comment was,
did it start with, "Oh my God, look at this"?
Yes. You must have it, Zach.
I do.
It was, oh gee, we're here we go. I am shook. Look, like, honestly, gardening, food that comes out of the dirt, like, it's magic.
When I read that,
that is not just a young lady who doesn't understand where things come from, who happens to represent an urban area in New York City.
You know, though, Dan,
the co-chair for science, energy, and environment and climate for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Along with John Kerry, who himself doesn't seem to know much about science either, and gave away the store at the Paris Treaty with the UN that President Trump thankfully took us out of, since it didn't apply to China, and China burns over half the world's coal and is continuing to increase the amount of coal it burns. So we're supposed to live with less here. We're supposed to listen to everything they tell us to do here. We're supposed to import Chinese solar panels to save the planet that they're making with coal more and more all the time. And this kind of disconnection, I think some of your listeners, and you may remember, she had a similar experience with a garbage disposal, which she swore she'd never seen before, and was afraid of using in her luxury apartment on Capitol Hill. She's a socialist, but she lives like a queen.
Mm-hmm. You know, let me just jump in and say this, Dan, that it's an embarrassment to the United States of America to have a woman like her sitting in Congress and helping to pass or negate laws for the American public when she's got the IQ of a bicycle spoke.
Well, I tell you, Zeb, our framers set up a system where people could pick representatives to represent them. I would be, if I was represented by her, I would be ashamed of my neighbors. And perhaps some of that will begin to stick, but I mean, it truly is. It's truly like Entertainment Tonight or something, with sort of empty-headed proclamations that the media breathlessly takes down and repeats. I mean, she's in charge of our energy program.
Oh, my goodness.
Under a Joe Biden presidency. She doesn't understand anything about agriculture. She doesn't understand the inputs of energy or water or fertilizer, which is energy. And yet that would be the person who's carving up the government's reaction to to trying to change the weather. I'm not even sure she could tell you what proper temperature they want. In fact, I'm not sure any of these people who are pushing climate change as a way to get control of the economy. Her own chief of staff said that this wasn't about global warming, that her Green New Deal wasn't about global warming. It was about how to control everything.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
And that's what she believes. So, when people tell you things candidly about what their real motivations are, what their real goals are, what the real story is behind the story that they're pumping out, they'll try to tell you that the polar bears are all dying when there's more of them than ever before.
That's right.
At the same time, and for that reason, you can't drive your truck or your tractor or your car, and yet they live like kings and proclaim for the rest of us. And it's I don't know how much longer Americans are going to put up with this stuff, because these examples are they're a punch in the gut.
Well, my concern is, and I want to word this carefully, I live in one of the most productive agricultural areas in the entirety of the United States, second only to the San Joaquin Valley in California. And right now, they just behind me, as a matter of fact, it's going on right now, they're in with the combines and starting all the grain harvest. Okay? I'm looking out the window, and I don't see any big propeller on the back of that combine pushing it down the field to get the harvest in. I don't see any propeller on the trucks that they're loading with grain. I don't see any propeller on the semis that are going to take that grain to the coast. I don't see anything of a propeller nature or wind turbine or solar power that's going to take agricultural commodities to market and eventually onto the consumer. The idiocy of somebody like AOC is showing to the point where she's got to be replaced.
Well, that's certainly up to the people, who are elected her, and I would hope that some of what she says would begin to sink at home. Plus the fact that, she went there as an armchair socialist and went to Washington and now is living like a king, in a luxury apartment with a Whole Foods in the basement and in a little garden up top that grows food that comes out of the dirt like it's magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to run agriculture on the scale that we need to feed this country and feed this world, that God blessed us with the land and the know-how and the hard work of American agriculture to be able to do. You can't move that grain to market with a solar panel or a windmill. You can't run a combine. I don't know. I'd like to see the battery pack for a combine.
Oh, my goodness sakes, I can't even imagine. The bottom line is, Dan, and you've been on this program so many times, God bless you for it, if it ain't broke, why fix it? We've got a great energy program in this country. We lead the world now. We've gone from being at the bottom of the bucket to the top, and we've done a great job. Why repair or replace what we've got?
Well, and here's what's going to happen today, Zeb. Joe Biden is coming out with his plan for climate and energy, and it involves spending $2 trillion with a T dollars over 4 years buying Chinese solar panels and windmill parts and Chinese minerals, because they control 90+% of the world's essential minerals for these things. I mean, you don't read that in your paper, but that's the truth. They control all the cobalt that's mined in the Congo. The companies that mine it are Chinese, and they use child slave labor basically to get it out of the ground. And then they put it into batteries and ship it to us, and they do it all by using coal. They're using coal, and they're selling us solar panels. And they control over 80% of the world's supply of those, too. And that's what they have in mind. And when you understand that AOC is his chief advisor on these things, you begin to understand. Now, the press won't say much about it. They'll just say, oh, yeah, he's got a green energy program. It's forward-looking and that sort of thing. But in reality, it tells you, get out of your internal combustion engines. We're going to import Chinese products, and you're going to buy those whether you like to or not. And that's what it's all about.
And you know, the bottom line is that something none of the Democrats, first of all, I don't think they're smart enough, and secondarily, they want to try to keep this hidden, are the transition costs. They don't mention transition costs. They'll talk about what it's going to take for solar panels. They'll talk about what it's going to take for the green energy on wind turbines, etc. But they don't talk about the transition costs of what it's going to take mom and dad America to try to switch over to their stupidity.
Well, and on top of that, Zeb, I mean, those transition costs are things they just assume people are going to pay.
Yeah.
And, of course, a lot of people live close to the edge. They say they support those people, but in reality, they make life harder and harder and harder for them by driving up the cost of housing, driving up the cost of food, driving up the cost of transportation, driving up the cost of manufacturing in the United States, which we began to get back. You know, under this administration, finally, we began to get some of those manufacturing plants back here because, by golly, we can make it just as well as anybody else in the world, and should be, and that's ultimately what they're talking about, is driving up the cost of those things. But remember, Zeb, I've said it before to you. This is not about energy; it's about power.
That's right.
It's about power.
That's right.
Trying to make you do something you don't want to do so that they can lord it over you and they can live like kings. They don't stop flying where they want to. They just hop on a private jet and go. Meanwhile, Americans are supposed to stay home wearing their masks and hiding in the basement, I guess.
You know, you're back in the kind of the beehive, if you will, of activity in politics in that area. What are you hearing, real quick, I've only got a minute left, but what are you hearing with the general folk out on the sidewalks or the streets or at the general store, whatever, as far as, is there really that kind of support, hopefully not, for Biden?
Well, I think in a place like Washington, D.C., there is, Zeb. I mean, they voted, Washington, D.C. voted 96% for Hillary Clinton in 2016.
Oh, my.
96%.
Oh, my. Well, you gave me the answer I didn't want to hear. Thank you.
You bet.
Oh, you know, Dan, you never know how much I appreciate you coming on the program. You add a perspective to this. When we're talking energy, I mean, literally, a year from now, if Biden and the disaster Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez take over power, we could, well, first of all, I probably wouldn't have this program, and secondarily, we might have to hitch a team of oxen to go get general supplies at the store.
If they have them, Zeb.
Yeah, amen.
Remember, they got to make them.
Amen.
You know, and I guess that was fine when we had 30 million people in the United States, but we have a lot more than that now, and people expect to live longer lives, better lives, watch their kids and grandkids grow up, and the kids get a chance to see Grandpa and Grandma and even great Granny and Grandpa, and that's the kind of world with families and you know, being American, making life better for us, that I think most real Americans want.
Absolutely. You know, I wish you well, my dear friend. Until next Tuesday, God bless you, Dan Kish, American Energy Alliance, a true friend of this program. You got to get out to Idaho, have a steak and some spuds, and we'll sit back with an adult beverage and enjoy the sunset. Hey, man, take care.
Thank you, Zeb. God bless.
All right, take care. Dan Kish. Good old boy. I really like having him on the program. Thank you very much. Okay, we got to pay some bills. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Holy moly, let me tell you something. I was in there yesterday. I hadn't been there for a long time. And they are extremely cautious, very safety-oriented for you and your health. I urge you to get a hold of them today. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Nick Greenwell, what a guy. Great manager, owner, and, of course, the entire staff. They know all about fitness and getting people back to shape and getting it back like you. Absolutely. All the exercises, the hydrotherapy pool, all of this and more. You make an appointment today at 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you, and also Elite Fitness at 1200 Oakley Avenue in Burley. By the by, next Thursday on the 23rd, is it next Thursday already? Yeah, it is. We're going to be over at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner at 611 North Overland in Burley for Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Don't forget, delicious food. My mouth is watering already. Absolutely, and super, super nice people to work with. Thomas and Michelle, the entire staff. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. I don't care what time of the day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, the desserts, everything is delicious. They really care about you enjoying your dining experience at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner at 611 North Overland in Burley. You stop in and see those good folks today. I know some other good folks that you need to stop in and see, and that's, of course, Let's Ride. Get your motor running. I'm telling you, head for the hills on a side-by-side or a four-wheeler from Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. Telephone number to call these great folks, 436-4771. The hours, Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays 9 to 2, and they've got a showroom full of fun. Stop over, see them today. Don't forget they've got all the accessories too that you need, and a super service department to keep you running. I'm talking about Let's Ride, where the fun is sold. Absolutely. Real quick, too, I want to talk to you before we go to our guest. I know he's probably chomping on the bit, wondering when I'm going to come to him. It'll be just a second. I want to remind everybody about Patterson's Electronics. You know, they've been on the program with us for quite some time, and I really appreciate the efforts of Curtis and Lorena. They are very community-oriented and helping various charities around the area. They're located at 421 East Main in Burley, and they are definitely your electronic needs headquarters. They've got all the home theater systems, all the video surveillance cameras, car stereos and speakers, complete sound systems, all your TVs. Woo! The list goes on and on. Anything electronics, it's right there at Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. Number to call, 678-6997. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. All right, after all that, I'm tired. I got to give my lips a rest. We're going to go to the phone line and say good morning to this gentleman, Patrick Wood. Sir, good morning to you.
Good morning, Zeb. Good to talk to you again.
Well, it's nice to have you on the program again, and I'm going to tell you right up front, Patrick, that you're catching me on a very bad mood day because of the way things are going in this country. It's time to put the hammer down and clean things up. What are your thoughts?
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I think just about everybody is feeling that way right now, and the lines are being kind of drawn in the sand where the politicians are getting tougher and tougher, and the people are getting sicker. Well, not sick. They're getting tired of it is what they're getting. And, yeah, who knows how it's going to resolve in the end. Right now, it's a pretty difficult situation.
Well, Patrick, I'm not trying to paint you into a corner. And you might think I'm just an old redneck cowboy, which probably I am. But this thing has got completely out of hand. The murders, the burnings, the lootings, the destruction of property, the cancel culture, just going and knocking over statues, and now going into the Christian realm, of which I'm a Christian and proud of it, knocking over statues of the Virgin Mary and destroying crosses, etc. This has got to stop, and if a few noses have to be bloodied, so be it.
Well, you're right. You know, the people that are kind of tearing things up right now, their plans have been on the table for a long time, and people just said, "Oh, that'll never happen in America." Why, you know, this is America, and nothing like that could happen here. And we shouldn't have been surprised when they came first for the cities, and then try to get the police departments defunded, and eventually it got right down to the point, says, you know what we're really after? We're going to take out all the churches in America.
Mm-hmm.
This program has been going on for an awful long time, as you know. There's been incredible prejudice against churches and Christianity in general in America, and it's rising like crazy right now. The mainstream media also is not reporting the churches that are getting burned right now, the statues and stuff, you know, symbols that are getting destroyed. It needs to be reported, but it's not.
But, Patrick, I've said this earlier, and I've said it many times before on my program. Again, I'm not trying to paint you into a corner, but these are my feelings. I've only got two cheeks. I've turned them twice. I'm not turning the other cheek again. I'm fed up with this garbage, and it's time for Christians at the church leadership level, the pastors, the board of directors, etc. They better stand up and start making their voices heard to the congregation about the ills that are going on in the community. What are your thoughts?
I agree, and this is one of the main arguments that we as Citizens for Free Speech have. The control over churches right now is a huge violation of the First Amendment of our Constitution, and churches have had autonomy in how they run their affairs and how they run their worship services and so on, and the state has absolutely no authority to come in and tell a church how it must run its services. And yet, pastors are just rolling over. They're just, oh, yes, we must obey the government. We must do everything the government says. And so, let's just shut our doors and we won't let people in. And, oh, we can't go to visit anybody at the hospital if they're sick, of course. And, if we do open up, well, we'll have everybody stand and sit 6 feet apart so they don't know who the heck they're sitting next to. And, this really does have to stop. And I have to say it's only the pastors and the staff and the people within those churches who can stand up and be counted. So far, they're not standing up and they're not being counted.
Why is that?
Dangerous situation.
Well, why though, Patrick? I mean, I'm not very well liked by the ministerial association in this area because I've come out and said that they were cowards in not being able to stand at the pulpit and give this social problem in a sermon. We have got to start fighting back. When you see the crosses and other monuments related to Christian faith being toppled over and burned, and you see the degradation of God and people in the condemnation of churches, etc. When are we going to start fighting back? I mean, I've never seen anything like this to where the churches are cowering in the corner and not doing a thing.
Honestly, I don't know. You know, the attitude that churches have today has been building up for, I'm sure, for decades at least. And you know, they've had this constant pressure from the government to submit to the government and just, let the government do everything for them. And we see this entitlement mentality in just society in general, but churches have also picked up this attitude, and they're looking for somebody else to solve their problems. They're looking, it's almost like they put the federal government in the place of God. Well, traditionally, they would say, well, we look to God for our provision and for our safety, et cetera, but now they're looking to the government to do that, whether it's the police force or a local government, a county sheriff, or the federal government, whatever. And this is a misplaced trust. Absolutely.
I got to ask you about this. Last night, I heard former National Football League safety Jack Brewer. I remember him as a player, and now he's a pastor. And I'm going to paraphrase some of his words, but the power was there in these few words. He said, we've got to get back to God in this country, and we've got to restore the paddle at the schools. How would you respond to that?
I would think that would be great. It probably isn't going to happen in the short term, at least for paddling. But absolutely, when when God was first kicked out, if you will, kicked out of the school system for sure, when prayer in school was disallowed, and we've seen all kinds of other things happen since where Christianity especially has been squeezed out of society. When that structure for moral behavior is removed, anything goes. There's nothing to constrain the people's actions anymore. And this is the problem right now. There is absolutely no restraint across America in what people, the evil stuff that people are doing. And it's because, by and large, the Christians and communities have not stood up to be salt and light. And it doesn't mean to be militant, beating people up. It means making yourself a leader, a thought leader in the community.
Absolutely.
To communicate with people, to talk with people, and to get them out of these crazy ideas and say, no, this is wrong. Don't do that.
Absolutely. I mean, that was very well stated. And it leads me into the next. When you said the word evil, automatically it triggered in my mind a pathetic and evil group that I will never give any reference to in good remarks, and that's Black Lives Matter. I think it's extremely racist. I think they are extremely clandestine in their thoughts and what they want to do. And I remember when the group supposedly started marching across bridges saying, pigs in a blanket, roast them like bacon, talking about our police and all the damage they've done. I absolutely will never adhere to Black Lives Matter. What are your thoughts?
I wouldn't either, but I'm fully convinced myself in my own mind that Black Lives Matter has nothing to do with race whatsoever. I don't think it ever did.
That's right.
And the reason I believe that is because they routinely and forcefully reject any black conservative voice that would like to weigh in on the matter. And there are many black conservatives across America that are great people, they're accomplished people, they're moral people, and these should be the heroes of the black community for sure. But Black Lives Matter hates these people. They're black, but they just hate them and they don't want anything to do with them. That proves to me that this is not an issue about race. It's an issue about transforming society into something other than what it is right now. And race is just being used as a convenient, shill card, if you will. It just, people buy into it. It's easy to buy into. But I just don't think it has anything to do with race when you get right down to it. Another thing that's interesting is you see how many whites are actually infiltrating or marching with Black Lives Matter. This also is kind of a clue to me that maybe it really isn't just about blackness or about the black race in general, that there's something else going on here. These people basically are just Marxist thugs.
That's it. That's
it. They want to destroy America. They'll do it any way they can.
That's it. You touched on it, and that is in their own words on their own website. As to the founders and the organizers, that's exactly what they are, Marxist/communists, and absolutely bent on the destruction of America and our Constitution. But let me ask you this question. If Black Lives matter so much to this group of militants, why are they going into communities of Chicago and Atlanta and New York and basically killing their own fellow blacks? This makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Well, it only underscores that it's not about race. It's it's about Marxist, revolutionary takeover. and they have no problem with black-on-black crime. They have no problem in instigating, unrest and stuff within the black community. You know, and you see in Chicago and other places where little kids now are getting shot. There was, I think, a 9-year-old kid or whatever got shot 4 times the other day. Yeah. A little kid. The kid was doing nothing. And, you know, you see these kinds of senseless killings, and you just have to step back and think, you know, it isn't really about race, is it? It's just about killing. It's about, you know, creating unrest. It's about revolution. And, yes, you're right. In America, we're facing a danger that we have never, ever faced before, I don't think, in the history of our nation. What's happening to us right now is comparable to what happened in Russia in 1918 with the Bolshevik Revolution. This is how it started. It's exactly how it started. And people didn't stand up and squash those people like bugs. Well, I hate to think, I don't want to see any bloodshed or anything in America necessarily, but the police in our country need to stand up against this stuff, protect the American public, and put these people in jail. Period. To me, that's easy. It should just be a police action. Go out and arrest these thugs and put them in jail, for peace sake.
Yeah, without a turnstile bail system that's going to have them back on the street at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Oh, that's exactly right. So, you know, our judicial system has, in a sense, turned against the American public. And our police system has, in a sense, turned against the American public because they will not defend us anymore. We've seen this in Portland now, for instance, Portland, Oregon, where I think they've had 40-odd days of unrest and riots. Several nights have been declared a riot around 10, 11 o'clock at night. These people are running amok because the city government, the mayor in Portland, Oregon, for some reason loves these guys and refuses to rein them in. So they're emboldened. They just continue night after night. They continue with more stuff. And, you know, people are getting beat up. Stores are getting trashed and burned. I mean, they're just doing all kinds of stuff. The police will not protect the public. So, obviously, the solution goes a little bit deeper than just going after the thugs. Our own system now seems to have turned against us in a sense because they refuse to do what they need to do.
Absolutely. You know, explain this to me quickly before I run out of time. But yesterday I saw a montage of the top Democrats, and I hate to use the word top and Democrat together. It's almost an oxymoron. But I saw a little bit of a display of these words. Every one of them used these 3 words when they said we have to reimagine public safety. Sir, tell me, what does that mean, reimagine public safety?
Well, reimagine is one of those new buzzwords that you see normally associated with sustainable development in the United Nations and those sorts of things. Reimagining means exactly what it sounds like. It means just, you know, coming up with something new that sounds good, but you just cook it up in your brain. No other reference point is necessary when you reimagine something. And what makes me nervous about this whole thing is that people who think that this is something good just don't understand the limitations of their own brain, for one. And number 2, they don't understand anything about the history of our country, because when our country was founded and our Constitution was written, those people went through can I use the term reimagining at the time? They thought through the issues and created a constitution for us that is perfectly good and workable if we would just do it. But the people today are saying, oh, no. Just throw all that out, get rid of all that. We need to reimagine. We need to do it all over again. You know, sit down, smoke some weed, maybe get some mushrooms, you know, whatever, and let's just kind of cook up something brand new.
Yeah.
This is so dangerous, it's not even, I mean, it's just beyond the pale.
Well, Patrick, this morning I was absolutely appalled when I found some of these statistics that came across my desk before I went on the air. The shootings since the pandemic started back in March are up 600%. And arrests, because police are being with their hands tied behind them, arrests are down 62%. We're on the border of complete mob rule.
Well, we are, and this is what's moving a lot of people to the gun stores to, gun up, if you will, to protect themselves, because they realize that, if they make a 911 call, they get in trouble, regardless of what the trouble is. The police are not likely to show up anytime soon. And if you have an immediate threat to your life or to your family's life, you don't have 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes or even a day to wait while the police show up. So Americans are starting to take the matter into their own hands. Now, that's good on one hand. Personal responsibility is a very good thing, but it also obviously has risk, because now you have another group that is an adversarial group with not only the ends up the police themselves who aren't showing up when they should, and the thugs that are roaming the street that are tearing everything up. So you're starting to look a little bit like the Wild Wild West again. But, at this point, America's got to do what Americans got to do.
Yeah, but quickly, I want to get into the story about the McCloskeys back in St. Louis. They were having lunch on their patio in a gated community. The wrought iron gate was destroyed, and 150 Black Lives Matter came onto their property and shouting and yelling and condemning them and cursing at them, saying they were going to kill them and burn their house down and shoot their dog. The McCloskeys got 2 guns. I would have, and they stood there defending their property. And now, with a black prosecuting attorney in St. Louis, they are under scrutiny. Their weapons have been seized. I don't know how legally they did that. And now they're up on charges. Where in the world is the common sense to this?
There is no common sense. And, again, this just underscores how sick our civil authorities are at this point. It took them a long time to get there, I realize. It didn't just happen yesterday. But when you have a government like that, the police structure and the legal structure turning on its own citizens, you see, this is adversarial. They're not protecting the citizens. The citizens were doing what the police should have done in the first place. Those BLM protesters were trespassing in the first place, and they destroyed property to get in, and that homeowners had every right to protect their property, and they felt like their lives were threatened. But instead of being called heroes, they were called, potentially criminals. Their guns are confiscated, and they may well be prosecuted for something. I don't know what they're going to prosecute them on, but they're hanging them out to dry, aren't they? They threw them under the bus.
Yeah. I wish I had more time to have you on the program, but you've got to make a promise to come back soon. Patrick Wood, God bless you, man. I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much.
Likewise, you're welcome anytime.
All right, sir. God bless. Thank you. Very, very articulate, nice man, Patrick Wood, and I'm going to have him back. I mean, the incompetency and the idiocy that's going on in this country, my goodness, all of us, and by the way, pastors and church leaders, let's wake up, smell the coffee, and start to all try to make things better, for Pete's sakes. Time for the weather. And the weather brought to you by our friends, Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company, providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. They are the professionals. They really are. They can help you and your family and your business with the best of tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, financial statement preparation, retirement planning, all of this and so much more. They've got 2 offices to serve you, one in Burley, one in Rupert. Don't forget the professionals. Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. Right now, here's Scotty with the weather.
Good Tuesday morning. It is time now for your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. For today, going to be sunny, looking for a high of 82. Expect some light and variable winds. Clear for tonight with a low of 47. Now for Wednesday, sunshine and a high of 86. Wednesday night, going to be clear, 51 the low. Warming up on Thursday again, sunshine and a high of 92 for Thursday night, mostly clear. Lows of 59 and 90 for Friday, and beautiful sunshiny skies. That's your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast.
Oh, Oh, my. Summertime. I love it. Thank you very much, Scotty. I appreciate that. Weather, again, brought to you by the professionals. You better believe it. Providing accounting services to you. Absolutely. Maybe you want to start a business or a corporation, or maybe you want to expand your business and hire more employees. They can help you with all the answers at Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And offices at 1710 Overland in Burley and 625th Street in Rupert. Wow, lots of things going on the rest of this week, especially Oakley Pioneer Days. And we've got some businesses up there that want to invite you to come on up to Oakley. Clark's for Shopping at 100 East Main Street in Oakley. You know they've got that famous Grandma's sausage recipe. It's good in bulk. Patties or links, not platties, but patties or links. There you go, Zeb. And don't forget, they've been in business since 1924, and they invite everybody to come on up and enjoy at Oakley Pioneer Days. Clark's for Shopping on Main. Oakley Valley Stone, don't forget, 204 West Main Street in Oakley. I mean, all the stones for fireplaces, headstones, landscaping boulders. You don't have to look any further. They've got everything at Oakley Valley Stone, 204 West Main Street in Oakley. And Smith's Cafe. Woo, baby, I'm telling you, you want to go away feeling like you just had a great, great meal? Well, you can at Smith's Cafe, 135 East Main Street in Oakley. Open Tuesday through Saturday, 8 a.m. until everybody's happy, fed, and out the door. They wish you to come on up to Oakley Pioneer Days. And last but not least, Speaker Scott Bedke, Speaker of the House and a rancher up in Oakley, invites you to come on up to Oakley and celebrate the 133 years of family Western tradition with the celebration of Oakley Pioneer Days all the way through the end of this week. Be sure and stop up. All right, what have we got coming up in the next hour? Well, we've got Dr. History coming up at 10:06. He's had, of late, a lot of interesting stories, and a lot of folks across the United States have written him letters or emails or made phone calls and told him about various stories or thanked him for what he's putting on the air. So that sounds really good. And then at 10:32 this morning, we're going to be talking with Speech First President Nicole Neely. She's been on our program before and recently was on Fox News, as a matter of fact, talking about the cancel culture and what's going on with the loss of our free speech. She's going to be calling to us from Washington, D.C. this morning, so we're looking forward to that. Tomorrow, we're going to give away some tickets to the American Legion Paul Post 77 for the annual German Sausage Breakfast, which is going to be on Saturday, and that's going to be $8 a plate, and it's going to be at the Wilbur C. Hall at 132 East Wayne Street in Paul. My good buddy Doug's going to be on the air. We're going to give away a couple of tickets to that German Sausage Breakfast at about 8:30 tomorrow morning, so tune in. Right now, I think we're going to wrap it up for a few minutes and let CBS News come in and absolutely destroy everything we've put together. We'll be back here in about 7 minutes. Don't go away. Well, here we are sitting in the studio and visiting with Dr. History. We're going to have him on momentarily. Don't forget Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. Safe, clean environment, and the best in tires. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And, of course, if we had a cell phone sponsor, it would be Dr. History's, because his just went off. We're going to have Dr. History in just a minute after I tell everybody about Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Absolutely a beautiful 12-bedroom home. Oh, my goodness, and they furnish 3 meals a day, snacks, housekeeping, local transportation. Look, Matt and Kelly Wiggins have put their heart heart and soul into this business to help seniors have a great place to live and be with their friends. Call them at 650-4979. That number again, 650-4979 for an appointment to see the beautiful facility, Greystone Crossing, Independent Senior Living, 1221 21st Street in Heyburn. Don't forget to our friends with 7K Metals. Oh my goodness, Lon and Sharon, I guarantee you this is a great way to help yourself build your financial security and future. How do you do that? Well, it's by getting rid of a sore throat. They can help you create your own security bank through silver purchases that come right to your home. A great saving opportunity, and it's a valued treasure for your loved ones in the future. Find out more. Call Lon Hardy. Excuse me. This has been happening all day. Call Lon Hardy at 312-8699 or Sharon at 430-3259 and find out more. They'll share all the information with you about 7K Metals. Help me, please, Doc. You're on the air. Good morning. Take it away.
Good morning, Zeb.
Oh, hay fever time. I always have that.
Yeah.
When that grain dust gets in the air, and they're combining right next to me right now.
Yeah, it seems early, but they're going at it. So
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, got a question for you, Zeb. If there was a particular beverage that shaped the Old West, what would it be?
Well, I'd have to say whiskey.
Okay. You didn't say milk. You said whiskey.
I had to be honest.
So, that's what we're going to talk about.
Whiskey.
Right? Whiskey.
EY or Y?
EY.
See, they're not all spelled the same.
Well, they probably don't taste the same.
No,
either.
but I think, and I'm going to probably stand corrected on this, I think when whiskey is spelled just with a Y, it comes out of Canada. If it's EY, it comes out of the United States.
Well, this is
I might
EY.
have that reversed.
Okay. This is EY, but it actually played a role in shaping the West. Its rise to prominence over rum or vodka has its roots in the early days of the United States. Its story began with the early colonists who learned to distill spirits from their new agricultural bounty of corn, wheat, barley, and rye, and they continued with our founding fathers, which led to the Whiskey Rebellion.
Oh, really?
Now, whiskey also has strong ties to the early explorers, the mountain men, the pioneers, the railroads, and more. It was sold as medicine. It was used to barter with and fuel the temperance movement. Because whiskey's main ingredients were easily grown all over North America, the art of distilling spread as rapidly as settlers into newly settled regions. And if you think about it, anytime a doctor was going to do surgery,
they poured whiskey on it.
And in it.
Yeah. And then you watched your patient automatically heal and run the 100-yard dash.
So it was taken internally and externally. And
put you out and then bring you back.
Yeah. But whiskey was quick and easy to produce, and distilling grains into alcohol made them more valuable, more transportable, and more easily stored for long periods.
I could never understand why on the trail drives in the movies and TV when the Cowboys hit Dodge City, they always wanted whiskey. No, I'd want something really cold.
Yeah, but, the popularity of whiskey grew, and as whiskey's popularity increased, so did its value as a trade good.
Really?
You don't think of it as a trading deal, but, whiskey, bourbon, and rye were readily available for sale all along the trails and one thing and another. Now, early explorers, Meriwether Lewis and William Clark and Zebulon Pike.
Oh, good. He's my namesake.
Okay. Took whiskey along.
Yeah.
With them on their expeditions.
He was a black mark on our family.
He was. Well, as I recall, he got lost trying to find Pike's Peak. Yeah. So anyway, in addition to it, it's being a standard army ration, and if you think about it, the water that the soldiers had to drink, whiskey was probably preferred over some of the water.
Didn't they use the whiskey actually to purify some of the canteen water?
They may have. I mean, it would have probably been better.
Yeah.
But it was used as a reward for their men and for trading purposes. And by the time Lewis and Clark set off on their expedition, the Indians along their planned route were already accustomed to the use of whiskey as a trade good, and in fact, they demanded it.
Is that how the TV series F Troop, that comedy, started? Because they mixed the water and the whiskey?
Who knows? Now you talked about Canada. So the French-Canadian traders had already established the whiskey negotiation as part of their regular commerce with the tribes they encountered. Major Thomas Biddle, who would be on the later Yellowstone expedition on the Missouri, wrote, quote, "So violent is the attachment of the Indian for it that he who gives most is sure to obtain furs, while should anyone attempt to trade without it, he is sure of losing ground with this antagonist. No bargain is ever made without it." So, as I was doing this story, I thought one of the worst things we did to the American Indians was the introduction of alcohol.
It created a problem that cost many, many lives.
Yeah, and
You just knocked your microphone sideways.
I just feel bad about that situation. But anyway, another guy named Abraham N. Binninger began selling bourbon and whiskey.
Binninger?
Binninger.
Oh, okay.
And whiskey from his New York City store in 1778. In 1849, his heirs, Binninger's Old Kentucky Bourbon Reserve 1849, was the first bottled bourbon in the country. So,
wow.
So now later, trappers like Jim Bridger, Kit Carson, James Beckworth, and Jedediah Smith, they carried it with them as a trade good after they too learned that the native peoples wouldn't trade with them if they didn't include whiskey in the bargaining process.
Now, how did they take it with them? Was it in the big vats or barrels or what?
I don't know, because I assume any way they could carry it. Of course, if they had wagons, they would use barrels, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, Beckworth recalled a trading rendezvous, and here's what he said. The absent parties began to arrive one after the other at the rendezvous. Shortly after, General Ashley and Mr. Sublett came in, accompanied with 300 pack mules, well laden with goods and all things necessary.
300?
Yeah. All things necessary for the mountaineers and the Indian trade. It may well be supposed that the arrival of such a vast amount of luxuries from the East did not pass off without a general celebration. Mirth, songs, dancing, shouting, trading, running, jumping, singing, racing, target shooting, yarns, frolic, with all sorts of extravagances that white men or Indians could invent, were freely indulged in. The unpacking of the medicine water contributed not a little to the heightening of our festivities.
Medicine water.
That was, so that was Beckworth at a rendezvous.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Missouri played an important role in the settling of the West. It served as a starting point for traders and pioneers in wagons, where goods of all kinds were shipped up the Missouri River to the west, and it served as a major hub for the whiskey business. And it's where most of the immigrant trails began, including, of course, the Santa Fe Trail, the Oregon Trail, all those that pretty much started there. But as a flood of immigrants rolled their wagons, handcarts, and livestock across the West, the lives of the people who already called the West home would never be the same. Whiskey's popularity as a trade good made it an essential tool in opening up a new territory.
Well, how expensive was it?
I'm going to get to that.
Oh, I figured you
would. But its influence compounded the damage that was immigration's legacy for the native people. And that's what I mentioned.
Yeah.
So in 1833, whiskey was trading at $5 a pint or $40 a gallon. Okay, $40. The cost for whiskey in New York was between $29 and $36 per gallon. In today's money, $40 would be about $990 for a gallon of whiskey.
No kidding.
I mean, that just blew my mind when I saw that.
Wow.
But supply and demand ruled, and whiskey became a hot commodity. Distillers and others in the business in Missouri enjoyed a good trade in the late 1860s and the early 1870s because they were able to ship products to many western cities from the port city of St. Louis. I mean, they just went up the river. An early buffalo hide camp along the Arkansas River in southwestern Kansas, Dodge City became queen of the cow camps after the Texans started driving their cattle up the Western Trail to the new railhead in 1876.
Yeah.
H.B. Bell
That was a great uncle of mine.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Founded the Varieties Dance Hall in 1877.
That was old Hubert.
Yeah, that was him. Just south of the tracks, anyway. And he said it became a popular whiskey watering hole for thirsty gamblers, cowboys, including Bat Masterson's younger brother, George.
Yeah, he was fun at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I'll bet he was. Life of the party. So as whiskey became more profitable as a commodity, producers had a hard time keeping up with the demand. So businessmen who wanted to turn a quick profit and fill their coffers created what they call, quote, rectified whiskey.
Well, rectified?
I'm going to tell you.
I see.
Okay. So rectified whiskeys, products were watered down or doctored with other cheaper ingredients like tobacco juice, kerosene, or grain alcohol, and that's where they get the term rot gut.
Now, wait a minute. Tobacco juice.
Yeah.
Where did they get I'm scared to ask about this.
I don't know where they got the tobacco juice.
I've got a feeling I know.
I'm not going to even go there.
Okay.
Straight whiskey was aged in new oak barrels for a minimum of 2 years, whereas rectified whiskey was usually consumed immediately. Required no aging and was often further distilled. Many whisker peddlers and saloon owners made their own version of whiskey. And I guess after a few drinks, you wouldn't know the difference.
How would the saloon owners know whether they were getting the good, the bad, or the ugly?
I think the owner of the saloon knew. And the bartender probably, you see movies where a guy walks up to the bar and says whiskey, and he says, "No, give me the good stuff underneath the table there.
Yeah,
not your cheap stuff."
Oh my!
So anyway, elixirs and bitters were also available, and were another common way that both men and women pioneers could get drunk. Now you think of a pioneer woman out there all by herself, and she could get a little. Thinking I need a little drink here.
You're on your own.
But, I don't blame him one bit. With its value as a trade commodity firmly established in the West, it was only natural that as the frontier expanded, so did the whiskey-based entrepreneurs.
Now, were there distilleries in like St. Louis and everything that shipped to the West?
I think they were all over the country eventually. But the pioneers opened a variety of whiskey-related businesses, and a host of other enterprises were formed in the West to support the growing population. Businesses like stagecoaches, freighters, glass and bottle companies, barrel makers, distributors, hotels, railroad cities, gamblers, distillers, mining, salesmen, and saloons all thrived because of whiskey.
Because of the whiskey business.
Yeah. So it was big business.
Wow.
So, now, 3 years after Fort Keogh's commanding officer, General Nelson Miles, evicted the fort's whiskey-selling businessmen.
What?
He got rid of them. Wanted to get them out of the fort. All right? Well, the enterprising merchants had built two towns, one called Milestown and another one called Miles City.
Which remained.
Yes. And that was to serve the thirsty soldiers and cowboys who'd flooded into eastern Montana following the end of the Great Sioux War.
I did not know there were two.
Well, and I'm not sure if Milestown still exists.
No, I know Miles City's there. I've been there many times.
Yeah. So, but, the merchants, they just set up a business outside the fort, and there they went.
Do we have time to take a call or a question? Let me ask you that before we go.
I don't know. Can we hang on?
Yeah, caller, hold on, please. We'll see how much time we got left. Hold on.
Well, businesses all across the West boomed with whiskey, but none more than the saloons, the dance halls. Other than the distillers themselves, the men and women involved with those businesses undoubtedly had the biggest connection to and profited the most from whiskey's influence. I mean, you think about the mining camps, Ed. If you rolled in there, well, in fact, up in Albin, not very far from us, there was a wagon load of whiskey that was going through Albin many years ago. It got stuck in the mud in the middle of town. The guy auctioned off his mules, painted saloon on the side of his wagon, and commenced selling whiskey and others to the local people. Up in Albin?
Really? I didn't know that.
Now, in money towns like Tombstone, Arizona, Virginia City, Nevada, or Dodge City, Kansas, popular whiskey drinks of the day included whiskey cocktails, whiskey slings, whiskey punches, rock and rye and stone fences. Only in rural or poorer towns would saloon owners serve their customers a simple shot of rotgut or cheap whiskey in some dimly lit ramshackle little dumpy place, watering hole. Yeah. Now, picture this. Buffalo Bill Cody, there's a picture of him that I saw, and some of his buddies, they paused between drinks in front of the Cherrywood Bar at his Irma Hotel in Cody, Wyoming.
Yes.
United Kingdom's Queen Victoria, a personal friend of the American showman, shipped this Victorian bar from Great Britain to be a centerpiece of his inn, which was named for his daughter.
And that's still there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's still there.
So whiskey had become the popular drink of the American West, but its rise was about to fall as the turn of the century neared. So did the push for regulation and temperance. The Bottled in Bond Act was enacted in 1897 because until then, the government did not regulate what was put in whiskey bottles and sold to the public, which could be dangerous, make you go blind or whatever. Well, the act was a significant regulatory reform and ensured that 100% of the liquid sold as single malt whiskey was distilled in the same distilling season by a single distiller, and that the spirit had been aged for a minimum of 4 years in a federally bonded warehouse.
Ooh,
so very strictly.
They got tough, didn't they?
Yeah. Now, here we go. The Women's Christian Temperance Union had been created in the 1870s, and they were, of course, pushing for prohibition, state prohibition laws. Eventually, national prohibition was passed and brought another chapter of scrutiny, economics, and opportunities to control the markets. When the repeal of prohibition allowed whiskey back on the market, it was regulated and mass-produced, and the love affair between the American West and whiskey was all but over.
Really?
Now, predating the ratifications of the 18th Amendment prohibiting distilling and consumption of alcohol in the United States in 1919, Congress passed and I'd never heard of this one, the Anti-Canteen Law, prohibiting the sale of alcohol on all military installations. The temperance and anti-saloon leagues pointed to army posts across the country as great dens of iniquity and alcoholism.
Oh, they were so pious.
They were. Now, the Palace Saloon in Prescott is the oldest continuously operating bar in the state of Arizona.
Been there.
It opened as the Cabinet Saloon in 1874, and its famous bar was pulled out of the burning saloon in 1900 and returned as the saloon's centerpiece when it was rebuilt in 1901.
Have you been there?
I have not.
Go. It's absolutely amazing.
Well, and it says, today the Palace Restaurant and Saloon anchors Prescott's historic Whiskey Row.
They do.
Okay. Just a minute, hang on there, hot collar. I've got just a little bit more here.
Okay.
Anyway, some of today's artisan distillers are experimenting today with like blue corn, oats, quinoa, amaranth, and other exotic ingredients.
Blue corn?
Yeah. Another company called Balcones Distilling in Waco, Texas, created its baby blue whiskey from roasted heirloom blue corn, and its brimstone whiskey is smoked with sun-baked Texas scrub oak. And while some distillers are using some pretty exotic ingredients that the pioneers didn't even know existed, others are using technology in their distilling methods, and it's quite possible that Western frontier whiskey makers may have experimented with, different things of wood chips, tree bark, stuff like that.
Wood chips and tree bark.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
To speed the flavor process.
Yeah.
But in gold mining town of Deadwood, founded in 1876, saloons ran nearly 24 hours a day to satisfy the thirst of the thousands of miners seeking their bonanza in the Black Hills, and almost all the whiskey would have arrived in casks, you asked about that,
right,
and been served straight from the barrel, or into jugs or bottles, and only the wealthy might have a bottled whiskey in reserve.
Really?
Now, one quick story about Oakley, Idaho.
Okay, real fast.
During the years of Prohibition, the sheriff and the judge would put the confiscated stuff in the bank vault, and every so often they would pull it out and destroy the evidence. So one winter evening, the judge and the sheriff were out there in the alley pouring whiskey into the snow, and a few people started watching, and then a few more people started watching, and pretty soon they started to make snowballs But they didn't throw these snowballs.
They were eating
They were eating the snowballs, and the story says a good time was had by all.
They loved winter, didn't they?
They did. Okay.
I got to take a quick call if they're still there. Caller, are you there? Fast. I've only got 30 seconds.
Yes. My great-great-grandmother went to Ottawa, Kansas before the Civil War. She said they had such a bumper crop of corn, and the ears were well over a foot long. She says all they could do was burn it in the stoves and the heating stoves, and she said that all they could do was sell 25-gallon of corn. Most people didn't realize what it was.
There you go. Doc, thank you. It's good to hear from you. I hate to rush you off, but I've got to get going here. Thank you very much. You know, one thing I'd like you to do is talk to me a little bit about the Old West second favorite drink, beer. And how they ship that across the country, and if it was manufactured or processed in some of the old western towns or whatever. Check on that.
And you don't hear much about beer.
No, because you always see, about Tucson, Arizona, and all the cities down there in the old west, the beer. Where did they get it from?
Well, I saw a bumper sticker that said, "My other car is a Clydesdale."
Hey, thanks for coming by. Dr. History, and we thank him very much for all of his effort. He's running out the door, literally. He's got to go to another meeting. See you, Doc. Bye. He's gone. And we'll have more of Dr. History next Tuesday on the program. Don't forget Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More with their sensational flooring event going on right now. 48 months, same as cash on approved credit. Carpet your home. There's 3 different levels of carpet, 3 different pricings, and oh my goodness, all of them are very economical. The same for the luxury vinyl for your entire home. You better check it out today. Great selections for you to beautify and comfortize your home. Like I said, it's the sensational flooring event at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. You get on in there, talk to Jeff and the crew. They can help you. They're all set to help you on the carpeting and the luxury vinyl at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley. Really good people. I want to remind you, too, that on Mondays, next Monday, of course, at 10:30, Vicky's Country Garden, and we talk about everything about gardening and growing your crops, landscaping, all of that, right here on Zeb at the Ranch. Monday at 10:30, Vicky's Country Garden over in Paul. That lady absolutely knows everything about gardening and growing, and she can help you. Be sure and put together your questions for next Monday at 10:30 right here on Zeb at the Ranch. Vicky's Country Garden at 185 South, 600 west of Paul. Let's send it back over to Sean. I'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
Oh, my. I look outside, and I'm saying to myself, 30 minutes, and I'm out the door, saddle a horse, and enjoy the day. My goodness, it's pretty outside. We had our next guest on the program about 2-3 weeks ago, and I said, I've got to have her back. She's a sharp, sharp lady. And during that interim, I also saw her being interviewed on Fox News. And so I'm very proud to have her back on the program. Speech First President Nicole Neely, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me back.
Well, what's going on the East Coast in the summertime? I would imagine it's hot and very humid right now.
It is hot and humid. I would much rather be in Idaho.
Well, we'd love to have you come out for a visit and do this live in my studio. Nicole, I'm very worried this morning, and that's why I wanted to have you on the program. We are seeing, unfortunately, the cancel culture take over and destroy almost everything that is part of our history and part of our culture. And nobody seems to be standing up and defending it. They're letting these people come in and vandalize and destroy. Why? Why aren't we putting the hammer down and saying enough is enough?
Well, I think people are scared. There was a letter that came out kind of mid last week, signed by about 150 public intellectuals. So people like J.K. Rowling, who was canceled because she had the temerity to say that there were biological differences between men and women. People like Salman Rushdie. I mean, he stood up, he had a fatwa on his head. And all these people have been canceled. So they had a letter. It was in Harper's Magazine. They said, cancel culture is dangerous. And then they were promptly met with, you guessed it, cancellation. And I think what's scary is that, these people, they're all famous, they're high profile. Okay, great, I'm canceled. I'm going to retire to my mansion with my millions of dollars. But it's scary when the mob comes for you, right? It's scary when it comes for your child. And there are anonymous bullies on Twitter saying, how dare you have that opinion? You should kill yourself. I mean, these are really awful times right now. And it is because it is such a cultural rot. It's, who knows? I'm not really sure what we can do about it, so I'm not sure if I have good news for you. I'm sorry.
Well, it's not that so much. And, Sean, I've got a little bit of feedback on my headset, if you would, please. We've let this go too far. I mean, it's like a cancer that should have been nipped in the bud, if you would, at the inception. And now we've let this go so far that these people are in control. Our boot heels are on the edge of the cliff, and all it's going to take is a stiff breeze to put us into the bottom of the abyss. What are we going to do to turn this around? Is there any hope? And what about common thought of the common good of this country? Is that all past history?
No, I mean, I've talked to several people about this, and my inclination is, be better, rise above, turn the other cheek. But that is exhausting, right? I mean, another inclination is just to let the left eat itself, right? I mean, you can't keep canceling each other and dragging each other for things that you all said 10 years ago on Twitter, comments that are taken out of context. It reminds me of that Miranda warning. Everything you say can and will be used against you. All the leaders of these mobs right now, I'm very certain that they have not lived perfectly upright lives, right? Like, everybody has something that will get them in trouble with this crazy group of people at some point. I mean, even I think about how President Obama and Hillary Clinton actually, they were opposed to gay marriage. And why have they not been canceled yet? I'm sure that is coming. I'm sure that is on the to-do list. But nobody is perfect. Nobody lives up. And it makes me so sad that there is no such thing as, Christian forgiveness or, goodness, like youthful indiscretion.
Well, when you say that nobody's perfect, the only perfect person was Jesus when he walked the earth. But when we start talking about people with warts on their personalities and what they did during their life, there's each and every person that has done so much good for the United States of America and to be looked up as heroes. I'll name a few. John Wayne. Now the cancel culture is after him to rename the name of the airport that bears his name, John Wayne Airport. And John Wayne was one of the greatest Americans with his albums and his acting, and a lot of people don't know he had record albums. His greatest was America, Why I Love Her. Others include, of course, the movie Gone with the Wind, a classic. And then, of course, we're talking about Christopher Columbus. And now the cancel culture is going after crosses and churches and statues of the Virgin Mary. I've had enough, and I'm going to fight back.
Right. I mean, I think you're right. There's in Britain, people want to take down statues of Winston Churchill. Gandhi is not good enough. A Frederick Douglass statue was torn down. I mean, obviously the founding fathers. You and I knew this was never going to stop with the Confederates, right? It was going to go to everyone, and it's so sad to me that it reduces everybody to these black and white, two-dimensional people. I mean, everybody is complex. I don't particularly like the musical Hamilton because I didn't like the music. But Alexander Hamilton was a good man. I didn't really like he cheated on his wife. But that musical is being canceled now, not because he was a slave owner, because his in-laws were slave owners. There are some characters in the musical who are slave owners. I mean, how boring is this sanitized, whitewashed history going to be? I mean, obviously you can't say whitewash anymore either.
Well, though, Nicole, let me just throw this at you, and I'm certainly not trying to sound like a racist or anything else, but in those days, 250 years ago, that was an accepted practice of that time. Now, I do not agree with it. I do not ever give a decree for it, but it was an accepted practice of that time. How dare we, 250 years later, go through with a glass that looks through both sides, right and front, and criticize these people for actions that they did 250 years ago? I don't understand that.
Right. I mean, we're holding the history accountable to the standards of today, which is inappropriate. I mean, it's, that is part of, studying history in college is looking at the decisions that people made in their context at that time period, right? And you don't have to agree with it. Maybe, you can discuss, maybe you would have made different choices. There's a professor at Princeton named Robbie George, and he said, it's interesting when I talk to my students about the Civil War. Everybody would have been an abolitionist. Absolutely everybody. You would have been on the moral right side. But would you have? And it's an interesting thought experiment because no, not you're almost everybody's ancestors, right? Nobody was perfect, but as you said, that was what was acceptable at the time.
And what really is starting to concern me with the cancel culture is their demands. I mean, there is no arbitration, there's no conversation, there's no meeting at the Holiday Inn in a convention room to discuss the pros and cons. It's a demand, and they do it. They tear down the statues of Christopher Columbus. They tear down the statues of the Virgin Mary. They tear down Robert E. Lee, Andrew Jackson, all of them with no conversation and quite frankly, no education as to what they're really doing.
Well, there was, I found an interesting tweet the other day from one of the stars of Hamilton, and she said that if you are canceled but do not wish to be, you must work to earn back people's respect by owning up to the thing that canceled you in the first place, listening to others, educating yourself, and advocating on behalf of the people you have offended or harmed. So all you need to do is just a little light flagellation, a little re-education, maybe a work release program. So really nothing to see here, right? But the problem is that people are getting canceled for perfectly mainstream things, right? I mean, opinions about religion, opinions about politics. The mob is coming for everybody across the board on very benign issues these days. And so it's very scary because those goalposts keep shifting as well.
One of the things that was said over the last 48 hours that I'm absolutely outraged about, and I'm a Christian and I'm proud of it, is that former presidential nominee seeker Howard Dean came out and said that all Christians are haters. And he went through and he belittled and denigrated Franklin Graham and others. And my question to you, Nicole, is if we have a growing cancer like Howard Dean and others that hate Christians, what about the Bible? Is it soon to be a book that's going to be banned because of hate speech?
I mean, that seems like a logical conclusion, doesn't it? Or at least we'll take out all the parts that make people uncomfortable, right? We don't want people to have their feelings hurt, to have to think, maybe question, is this an allegory? Did this really happen? Did somebody really try to cut a baby in half? I mean, that is triggering, right? And so, yeah, we should definitely take at least chunks out of it, if not get rid of the whole thing.
But,
it's so sad. I mean, the fact is, there's that saying, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. That exists for a reason. I mean, I think of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, right? She doesn't know history. And that's why she is repeating it with proposing some of these failed programs from other countries. And it's so sad. You don't have to agree with everything in the past, but definitely learn from it.
Let me ask you this, talking about free speech. I don't know if you're a football fan. I don't know if you're a baseball fan, but there is a major push right now to change the Washington Redskins football team because the cancel culture, doesn't like the terminology Redskins. However, when a poll was taken of most of the native Indian American tribes, they came out like 90% were in favor of keeping the terminology Redskin, as they were with the Cleveland Indians baseball team and the Atlanta Braves baseball team and the NFL's Kansas City Chiefs. Why do we have to kowtow to them?
It's a squeaky wheel, right? The squeaky wheel gets the grease. The Washington Redskins deal seems to be done. I think they're gonna
Yep.
They're retiring it next week, and then they are not going to announce the new whatever it's been replaced with for a few weeks. I went to the University of Illinois, and our mascot was, when I was there, Chief Illinois, Indian chief.
Yep.
And so that has been taken out. It's just replaced with a giant eye. They never were able to agree on what to replace it with. But interestingly, the school still holds the trademark on it, and they vigorously defend that in court if anybody were tried, the copyright. So nobody else can use it, but they definitely still make money off of it when people do.
And isn't it interesting?
I expect the same thing will happen with the Redskins.
And isn't it interesting, Nicole, when you talk about these tribes, etc., one tribe that is absolutely outraged that there would be a cancel culture are the Seminole Indians down in Florida because of the money the tribe makes off of being the mascot for the Florida Seminole University football team.
Oh, how interesting.
That's why I'm saying it's just ridiculous what's going on in the cancel culture. But now that they've dragged religion...
People who are determining what you should be offended by. I mean, I am a woman. I am an Asian. I like to make up my own mind about things, and I don't want somebody saying, your delicate sensibilities can't be exposed to these things. This will hurt your feelings. How dare you tell me what my feelings can and can't be hurt by?
Absolutely.
To me, it's so patronizing and condescending. It's this virtue signaling. I want to show you how sensitive and woke I am, that I can even perceive your needs before you can. No, back off.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. What do we do about our education system? How do we redo the education system so that our kids can appreciate the past, can appreciate the sacrifices and the blood, sweat, and tears that was provided for them to live in America? How are we going to teach them if everything all of a sudden is diminished and gone?
I think it's been very interesting to me. I have two small children, to just watch parents over the past few months really pick up on what their children are, or for the most part, are not learning, both at, the K-12 level as well as in college. How much money we are spending on this. Our tax dollars, if your child is in a public school, money out of your pocket if your child is in college, for the kind of education they are receiving. I saw a poll recently that said it was over 40% of parents were considering homeschooling their children going forward because they were so disgusted at the quality of education they were receiving. And so, not that there was a silver lining to COVID, but, I think parents are engaged on this in a way that they maybe previously had not been as sensitive to.
Absolutely.
Because I think, one problem I see in college campuses over and over again is students just don't understand basic civics education. The first time you've heard about the First Amendment is, this is why Richard Spencer can come to campus. I'm not surprised that some students say, oh, I hate this. I hate the First Amendment. They don't know the beautiful history of the Bill of Rights, of how free speech has been used by groups throughout history to get their message out and persuade others. And so it's sad that students don't know that. So I think it really, a lot of this has to begin at home with giving our students the education that sadly they're not receiving at school.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question or a comment. Caller, go ahead, please. You're on the air, please.
Here's the comment. This same counterculture that's trying to get rid of the Native American names for universities and colleges. My opinion on that is if you are not, if you don't have a special portion of your history being Native American, you should butt out of the conversation. I'm 25% Apache, and I'll tell you what, amongst the Native Americans, you're right about that 90%. Most of us don't really care. It's not that big a deal to us. But the fact of the matter is we got so many white people, people who don't have a dog in the fight, who want to make the decision for us. And that is upsetting to me. They should butt out.
Thank you, caller. Respond to the caller if you would, please, Nicole.
No, I think I appreciate that sentiment. At what point, though? I mean, I think about different students who, a few years ago, there was a student who got in trouble because she had worn a Chinese dress to her prom, and she took a picture, and people started saying it was cultural appropriation.
Right.
And it wasn't, she wasn't trying to be disrespectful. She was trying to show she thought the dress was beautiful. She thought she was being appreciative. And she was told, this isn't your culture, back off. And so, I mean, I think on some level there are people who, they love the name of some of these sports teams, they have an affinity for it, and so to be told you can't like it, you can't express an opinion, period, I think that's sad, because so much of America has been built on being a melting pot, on sharing things and appreciating others. My grandparents were in an internment camp, and when they came out, they hated, nobody liked Japanese people for so long in the 50s and 60s, and so now when I see people eating sushi and wearing Japanese clothes, I think that's great. They would be so happy that they were finally accepted. And so I'm not sure if I totally agree that that people should just keep their mouths shut.
Well, I think the point that he was making, and I'm not trying to put words into his mouth, was that if the Indian tribes, whether it's the Cherokees, the Seminoles, Apaches, as he said he was part, it doesn't make any difference. If they agree that they enjoy and basically are supportive of, like, the Kansas City Chiefs or the Cleveland Indians, etc., and they do it in a professional manner, and the Indians agree with it, the tribes agree with it, how dare these other cancel culture people come in and just take it away?
Yeah, no, yes, that point is well taken.
I just think that somehow we've got to put the brakes on this, because where is the end? What is the last page of the cancel culture? Who is going to be the last statue that's going to be toppled? I don't think you can answer it, and neither can I.
No, it's it'll be sad, because at the end of the day, if we allow this to continue on the path it is, the only thing left of American history is going to be puppies and kittens and ice cream. And
there you go.
That's not really history.
Absolutely. We got one other quick call. I've got 2 minutes left. Caller, real fast. Go.
I need 15 seconds. I'm just calling back to let you know you hit the nail on the head with what I was saying.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Saying that's exactly right. Let the Indian tribes decide that. There's two prime examples I want people to look at. Florida State Seminoles and the University of Utah Utes. They both do this right.
Absolutely.
If you go back and pay attention to them, you'll find that they treat it with respect. They know what they want to do. And in the case of the University of Utah, they have told the Utes that if they ever decide they don't want the university to use their name anymore, they will stop immediately.
Absolutely. I'm glad we were on the same page. Thank you. Thank you so much. Nicole, I wish I had more time. I watched you on television the other night, and it jogged my memory. I've got to get you back on this program. I hope you'll come back and visit with us again.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Speech First President Nicole Neely. God bless you. Have a wonderful week, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much. Enjoyed having her on the air and talking about free speech. And I really want to thank that gentleman for calling and stating his opinion. And I'm glad I discerned what he was saying, because I know a lot of the folks down there in the Jacksonville, Florida area, and the Seminole tribe absolutely wants the retention of the name as the mascot of the Florida State University, the Seminoles. We got to get a weather forecast on here, and the weather brought to you by Scarro's Meats. Don Scarrow and the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. Absolutely delicious meats. I mean, all the different flavors of bacon and the ham and the pork chops and the tri-tips and the sausages and the bratwurst, all of this and so much more. Go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. Absolutely delicious. Number to call, 324-7657. Scarrow's Meats in Jerome. And right now, here's Scotty with the weather.
Good Tuesday morning. It is time now for your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. For today, going to be sunny, looking for a high of 82. Expect some light and variable winds. Clear for tonight with a low of 47. Now for Wednesday, sunshine and a high of 86. Wednesday night, going to be clear, 51 the low. Warming up on Thursday again, sunshine and a high of 92 for Thursday night, mostly clear. Lows of 59 and 90 for Friday, and beautiful sunshiny skies. That's your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. Have a great day.
And you got to turn the mic on, Zeb. Oh, that's a prerequisite. Thank you very much. Scarrows Meats brings us the weather at 331 North Road, Jerome. Thank you, Don. We appreciate it. And you folks go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. Absolutely delicious meats for all occasions. Scarrows Meats in Jerome, changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. What have we got cooking tomorrow on the program? Open forum in the first hour, and then Dave Bego's going to be on at 9:06, and then we're going to have some folks on the air with the Oakley Pioneer Days, absolutely. And then tomorrow is Idaho Fishing Game Day, and we're looking forward to a conversation. I think Terry's coming over on behalf of the fishing game, and we're looking forward to our visit with them tomorrow. So that's all on Zeb at the Ranch Wednesday. Want to remind you of a great big shout out and thank you to our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, our major sponsor. And of course, don't forget, if you're going on a road trip, they offer a free pre-trip safety check. Say that fast 5 times and stay on the radio. And they'll check your tire. And I want to start that all over. Tire inspection, tire pressure check. There you go. I bet my tongue, it hurts. Visual wheel alignment inspection, visual inspection of the front end components, visual inspection of the brake components. They'll check out your shocks and struts and the battery. I'm telling you, they want you to make sure that when you leave here and go to your destination, turn around, come home, it's going to be a safe trip. And of course, don't forget, they've got the best in tires for your cars, pickups, SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, all the different tread designs, all the tires for you. And above all, they pledge to you the best in service. All 7 locations: James and Buell, Dan on Pole Line in Twin Falls, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Dave on Blue Lakes in Twin Falls, and Trent on Overland in Burley. Yep, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You know, every fall or in midsummer when they start the harvest of the wheat and the barley and everything, yours truly gets a little bit of a sore throat, so bear with me. We're going to be back here tomorrow at 8:06 and continue on with more stories and more great guests. And I want to thank everybody for being a part of the program. I've got one little quick public service announcement that I'm looking for, and I can't find it. Here it is. We're going to give away 2 tickets tomorrow to the American Legion Post, Paul Post, number 77, to the annual German sausage breakfast on the 18th. And be listening at about 8:30 tomorrow morning. Until tomorrow, we always say the way things were, the way things ought to be, and the 4 words that mean the most to us: in God we trust. Take care. Have a great afternoon. Zeb at the Ranch, back tomorrow morning at 8:06.